Thank you for your interest in Great Vow Zen Monastery. I hope I've answered some of your questions. We're always happy to welcome people into the community. So please come for a weekend workshop, for sesshin, or come and give monastic life a try. Come for a few days, a week, a month or longer. Please visit our website at www.greatvow.org or phone our registrar. May you be happy.
Now that you've seen the video, we'd like to talk a little bit about Zen training, and especially a particular style of practice that we have here at Great Vow Zen Monastery. So people are drawn to Zen practice for many reasons. One reason is that we find ourselves caught in our lives in the midst of confusion and doubt. We have pulled so many different ways. We have so many demands made on us that we lose track of what is most essential. We enter Zen training because we want to cut through all of this confusion and to seek what is the most essential, elemental part of being a human being, and to begin to operate from that place.
People, if they're honest, will say that they undertake Zen training because they want to become enlightened or awakened. What does that mean, to be awakened? Well, most of us have had a little taste of what it means to be awakened. We call them peak moments, moments when we were really present, when time seemed to stand still, when things became crystal clear. There are times that we'll never forget. Maybe they were times when we were in danger, like a car accident, or times when we were out in nature and suddenly everything became luminous. So we can imagine that to be awakened would be to have more and more of those experiences until they became almost continuous. We call that returning to our original mind. That is actually the state of our original being. And we say that the elements of our original being are clarity and wisdom, so that we know what to do in every situation, and also compassion, so that our heart is open and undefended, and we can be empathic and relate to people and other beings in a most intimate way. So Zen training is undertaken in order to uncover that original mind. It's not something that's put on from the outside, but it's something that's innate to us, but has been covered up by the confusion of our minds, the anxiety of our hearts, and also the busyness of our daily lives. We have to take some time away from those busy lives in order to undertake the practice and use the tools of practice that will help us uncover what we call our original nature and become awakened.
So the next question is, who can train? Zen training and spiritual training in general is only dependent upon one's desire to know one's true nature. It's independent of age, gender, social situation, or even one's intellectual capacity.
We've had people here as young as 15 or 16 and as old as in their 70s. The schedule is pretty grueling, though. We do get up early and go to bed late, and so in general people in training are between their 20s and their 60s. All that's really necessary is a desire to see through delusion, to see who we really are, and then to apply the tools of practice in an earnest and steady way. Every place of Zen training has a particular style, and if asked, I would say that our style is a family style. So Hogen and I spend a lot of time every day in contact with students. We all get up together, we meditate together. Hogen and I see students usually once or twice a week in private interview called Sanzen. And then because we're working together, we're teaching while we're working. We're also helping people discern how spiritual practice will function in their lives. For example, will they come here just for retreats or as a place of refuge? Do they want to train here for 6 months or a year or several years? Or is it possible that this would become a lifelong vocation? So we do have some people who enter an ordination track, become postulants, and then eventually become ordained, and then are further trained as Zen priests.
So as a teacher, our main concern is that each student come into their own way of being. Everybody's unique, everybody's different. So in the initial stages of training, often we let go of that which is extra our affectations. But as we continue training, that part of ourselves, which is so completely unique to us, has to come into its own, has to become full. So on one hand, in Zen training, there is a lessening of self, a lessening of self-interest and self-concern. But on the other hand, there's also an increasing uniqueness about what is my personality like? How can I best help people in the world? How can I best function in the world? So these two poles of practice, of letting go of one's self-concern and expressing oneself in one's own unique way, both carry forward over time. So meditation is a state of mind. It's being mindful and looking into each thing that we encounter. So we do meditation while we're working, eating, even sleeping. In the Zen tradition, we emphasize that there's two sides of practice. One side is that there's the stilling of the mind and stilling of the body, and meditating to that place where nothing moves. But there also is the other side of the coin, where we have to be able to meditate to keep our mind and our awareness alive and alert and present in the midst of all sorts of activities. There can be no withdrawal from the world. The meditative mind has to be present at the computer, talking to people, has to be present in working out in the garden, has to be present in cleaning, in working on the roof, whatever activity comes up. The meditative mind is a mind that's completely and wholeheartedly involved in whatever it's doing. So we discover that mind in seated meditation, and then we apply that mind in active meditation.
One of the analogies that I always use is that our mind is like a flashlight in the hands of a hyperactive 3-year-old. And the 3-year-old is shining it around, and the batteries are wearing down. And then that actually happens in our life, that our batteries wear down, and our mind doesn't have the clear focus that it could have. So through our meditation practice, we learn to concentrate the mind so that it becomes like a laser beam, and it can cut through confusion and see the truth of every situation. And we learn to hold our focus steady on something so that we can see what our path in life should be and follow it. In meditation practice, we also work with the heart. The heart has a much greater capacity than we usually use, a capacity for compassion and for loving kindness, so that in the daily situations that we face, many of which may frighten us or alarm us or make us angry, we have the tool of loving kindness to keep our heart open and undefended and do what's appropriate for ourselves and for other people who might be suffering.
So here we have many different kinds of practices that we use. Our training is in the Soto and the Rinzai schools, plus we have all of our professional training as well. One of the fundamental practices that we use is shikantaza, being able to sit with things just as they are, letting the mind be quiet, present in the body. Another kind of practice is koan practice, where one takes a fundamental life question. Where did I come from? Where will I go when I die? Who am I really? And one looks deeply into that question until one cuts down to a place that is always true. And then subsequent koan work really looks at each of our habits of mind and helps us to overcome habits of mind. And there's the practices of character work, the practice of looking at the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance, and to really specifically try to see into their roots. So in looking for a spiritual practice or a spiritual center, there's several things I would suggest people do. First off, it's a matter of the heart. The heart has to feel drawn to wherever we go. If the heart is not there, then the practice is not going to touch us deeply. Secondly, it's helpful to look at the training of the people who are the leaders of the community. Were they trained in a way that thoroughly helped them to look at their own issues? Third, to really look at the community. What's the flavor of the community of people who've been practicing in this center for a while? Do they exemplify a kind of energy or spirit that you would like to also embody? And then fourth, to look at, is this an ethical place? Is there a solid ethical foundation to the training and to the whole community?